Good evening. My name is Shalonda Griffin, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator here at Gifts of Life, Michigan. And tonight we are having a very special interview with Mr. Londel Cook. He's going to share his amazing story with you all tonight. But before we get started, I would like to introduce you to my co-host. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you represent?
Brand Porter, founder and CEO of Beats and Beers is a company where we travel all around doing shows, festivals, and even cool like this. We're all community, all about community.
Yes, you have been a great partner, Brandon, and thank you so much for being with me tonight. Now, as you can see at the bottom, it says trivia participants. There will be a bonus question based on this interview. This is a two-part event that Brandon and I are co-hosting. Tomorrow, we will be co-hosting virtual trivia. It takes place at 7 p.m. If you are not registered and you would like to join us for a fun time, we're going to have some questions based on donation as well as your general trivia questions. You can sign up at golm.org/trivia. But this is the first part. We want to highlight that there is a serious component to trivia. It's not just fun and games. There is a serious aspect connected with that. And that is why we have Londel here with us today. Hello, Londel.
Hi, how you guys doing today?
Great. Thank you so
Good.
much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Mhm. So, Londel, you are from Saginaw?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a great story to tell. I think maybe Brandon wanted to add something before we get started.
Yeah, you had a directed donation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Shalonda, not
Yes.
those who don't know, and I probably use some education myself. Can you please the definition of what a directed donation is?
Of course, I'd be happy to. So, with both living and deceased donation, a person can direct those gifts to a specific person. So, a lot of times with living donation, for example, let's say Brandon, you were in need of a kidney, and I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I could go through testing to see if I'm a match and give my kidney to you. But
Okay.
deceased donation is kind of the opposite. It usually involves someone who is a donor giving their organs to strangers, just whoever is a good match for them. But
Right.
sometimes, if a person knows a specific person is in need, so for instance, my husband recently passed away, and if I knew that maybe Brandon needed a kidney, I could ask to see if my late husband's kidney would be a match for Brandon specifically. And if it were a match, he would be able to receive that transplant. But if it's not a good medical match, it will go to someone who is a good match. Does that make sense?
Yep. Complete sense.
Awesome. And Londel, that's what you had, a directed donation, as Brandon mentioned. So can you tell us more about your story, please?
Absolutely. So I had been on dialysis since 2007. I had gone into end-stage renal failure because of hereditary hypertension. And most people know that, high blood pressure is easily undetected. It doesn't always have symptoms. You don't always have issues with it. And in my case, it had gone on for years and years until it had caused end organ damage. So with me contracting HIV in 2005, HIV can be a bully. So when I contracted HIV along with hereditary hypertension, they immediately attacked the kidneys. And then 2 years after that diagnosis, I started having to go to dialysis. For a short time, I had residual kidney function that would reoccur. So I started dialysis in 2007, and I came off probably in 2008 for a short stint, and I had to return back, and I have been on ever since for the duration of 12 years. And so during that time, of course, I had numerous surgeries. Fistulas, grafts put in, tubes for catheters on both sides of my chest because they would fail. During that time, I also went on peritoneal dialysis, which is the process of then putting a peritoneal catheter in the peritoneal cavity, which is in the lower abdomen. And this is a process which is a lot less strenuous than hemodialysis, which entails blood, and being in the dialysis center. This is a process that you're at home. So I did that for a while, and that didn't quite work out for me. I had several surgeries on my arm, failed surgeries. Grafts that got infected, just an
Wow.
incredible process for the course of 12 years. Well, in 2019, I go to this church called Kingdom Life Ministries. And at this church, I've been there for about 15 years now. And I got a really good relationship with a lady by the name of Annetta Williams. And she's kind of like an aunt to me, just a really close relationship. So we've been knowing each other for a long time. And for the most part of my journey, my health journey, she's been there. We've just been in each other's lives. Well, her brother in 2019 suddenly became ill with bacterial meningitis. He was a very healthy man. He was 50 years old. He was planning to get married in several months. And he contracted bacterial meningitis, which is basically fatal. After contracting that, within maybe a week or so, he became very ill, went into a coma, was placed in the hospital. And she remembered that she knew someone that needed a kidney. And she asked the family, they talked it over and began to work out the process of seeing if the kidney would be a match. During that time, he was placed on life support while they tested me and tested the kidney that he had. And turns out that he was a perfect match to me. So
Wow.
in March of 2019, I received that directed donation. And from that day forward, I have not had to return to dialysis since.
Wow.
Wow. What has changed for you, just like overall, since you had the transplant? I mean, I'm sure like it was, it sounds like you had quite the journey, but how has the transplant improved like your, just your regular everyday life?
Life has been totally transformed, a complete 180 for me. I can say that while I was on dialysis, I was not the typical patient. I always told my caretakers that I didn't want to be referred to as a patient because I felt like getting through dialysis and getting through kidney failure or any major health crisis is ultimately a mindset first. And so that's the reason why I decided to keep a full-time job. I recorded music. I kept preaching. I was speaking and motivationally speaking at colleges and places in and out of the state, dialyzing in the different states that I went to, because I just refused to adapt the mindset that this was it for me. So I never really kind of sunk into not being active at all. But my life did change drastically because I was able to return to work. During the process of me being on dialysis, I got too sick to be able to work. So of course, I was losing my apartments, losing my car, just all kinds of things, just not having my own space for a long time. And that was difficult coming from a place of being independent. I contracted this kidney failure in my 20s. So the majority of all of my 20s, I was sick. So I didn't get a chance to live life at all. I lost all my 20s to renal failure. But my life changed because I was able to immediately get a job. Like after I got the transplant in March, I started working in the hospital 3 months later as a transporter because I wanted to be close to people and just, be able to encourage people and things like that. During that process, I was able to transport several patients that I dialyzed with over the years. Of course, they didn't recognize me right off, but when they did recognize me, some of them would break down and cry. I could remember going to transport them to the dialysis center in the hospital, and they would cry, realizing that it was me. And, it's crazy that my doctors and a lot of the techs and aides that helped me actually work at the hospital I work at now, which is Covenant, and I used to dialyze there. So it was just a full circle situation that has absolutely turned my life upside down. And I just really, in a good way, that is, turns out in a
Right,
good
right,
way,
right, right.
but it has absolutely enabled me to propel forward without limitation and just to be an encouragement to others and to see them or to see my life inspiring them in so many ways just gives me, encouragement and inspiration and momentum to move forward, to keep doing what I'm doing.
Wow, that's great. That's so amazing. I like how you said, even though you were on dialysis for 12 years, you didn't want to just give up or even refer to
Right.
yourself as a patient. It's great the mental fortitude that you displayed. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship with your donor's family like now? I'm assuming you still
Oh,
go to church with this woman.
absolutely. We're very, very close. Very, very close. We were close before. We're even closer now. I see her often. We just see each other all the time. We talk often. At first, it was very, it wasn't difficult in our relationship, but I think it was weird for me because um, you kind of feel that thing when you're alive, but someone that they love is gone on. And
Mm.
even though it was difficult for me because, they wanted me to come to the funeral and everything. And I just couldn't go because in my mind, I was like, you just feel like, dang, I'm I'm glad that I'm alive, but it costs them so much, So that's always a difficult place when the family of your donor and things like that. But ultimately, our relationship grew, and the mindset that they had in the overall situation was that they wouldn't have wanted it to go to anyone else because my life was already moving forward and I was doing so much stuff in the community. I had such a good relationship with so many people and such an inspiration to so many people. They felt as though their brother would live on through my life. So that helped me to just kind of stay connected and not wear it heavy, but to just make him proud and make them proud by making sure that I kept on the course that I'm on.
Nice. So now that went through the process, how do you promote donation within your own community?
Well, honestly, I think that my life itself is definitely a self promotion of kidney donation or organ donation, period. Because, like I said, I was not very quiet with my life when I went through. It was a very public time for me because I was already in front of so many people. So when I got sick, everybody knew about it. Like it was a really big deal. But they also found out when I got the transplant because I was on a major platform and told my entire story. And just the fact that I'm moving forward and I'm always talking about my story and I have books out and I'm very public about that thing, it automatically I get messages all the time for people saying they're encouraged. They have a different viewpoint now on organ donation because they see how much good can come out of, such a unfortunate situation.
I do have an additional question to ask off of that. So, did it take you a while to be as open about it, as open about your journey and like writing, getting to all of that? Did it take you a while to get to that point, or were you initially like, no, I gotta tell my story?
You know, I've always wanted to tell, to talk about where I've come from. However, the point of writing books, I didn't necessarily feel like I could do that. So I had several people that would always say, Londel, you should tell your story. And that was before I got the transplant. People wanted me to tell my story about coming back, overcoming death and just how multiple organ failure and how sick I had been and, just being on life support in a coma and all those things I've been through. So that initial story, I got a lot of support and background help to push that out. And then ultimately from there, I saw that it was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. And that just propelled me forward into being more open with telling where I've been and how much positive reception comes from that. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
very hard for people to tell their story because they feel their rejection or it's going to be a bad outcome from being so vulnerable. But it's been just the opposite for me.
So
awesome.
I see that you've written two books, Confessions of a Soldier and then My Faith Revealed. So does one book talk about your life pre-transplant and the other post-transplant? How do they
Actually,
differ?
no, so the first book talks about my life pre-transplant and it talks about the decisions and the life I had that led up to me ending up contracting HIV. And then the second book is more of a more detailed version of the first story with a few more additions as I grew older and more mature. But the third book that is coming out at the end of the fall this year is called And Then It Was Over. And that book will have the complete story from beginning to end, inclusive of the transplant journey.
Okay. And those two books that you have out right now are both available on Amazon.com in case anyone is interested in reading those. I'm interested in picking those up myself. You have been such an encourager for so many people, even the people who are watching this interview right now. I've seen a couple of the comments, like the Otto family says, that's a legit miracle. I felt a 180-degree change as soon as I woke up from surgery. Great for you. Or Aisha Johnson, who says powerful journey. Same thing as Get the Life Motep is saying, what a powerful journey. Um,
Absolutely.
the thing that I appreciate about you is just how vocal you've been about your story from
Yeah.
day one. That has to be so encouraging, especially from people who saw where you were 12 years ago to seeing, I mean, you look fantastic, to
Thank
just seeing how you are now. So that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I'm absolutely excited about where my life is now and where it's absolutely going. Very excited about it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you do motivational speaking. So do you go out to hospitals, or do you speak at churches? If someone wanted to have you come out and share your story, what is the process with that?
Well, I speak everywhere. I've been asked to speak everywhere, especially pre-COVID. I spoken in several states. I've spoken at the colleges here, and also in colleges in Flint, and of course in church. I preach, and I also just like to tell my story or my testimony to kind of bring light towards the possibility that people could realize that if you change your mind, it has a whole lot to do with the way your body acts. Your body will follow your mind. And sometimes it's hard for people to get that, but I try to encourage them to let them know that that's what kept me. So if people want me to come and speak places, most times they either hit me up on Facebook or they email me. Somehow I get the information. So through either platform that I have, they try and find me. Most of them do.
Okay, that's great. So if there's someone out there who's listening, or if you were to encounter someone who's unsure about organ donation, what would you say to them?
Oh, wow. Well, I would definitely tell them that first of all, I would identify with the fact that I know it's a painful process to even have the conversation about donation. But I would also like to make sure that I encourage them of the highlights that donation does has to offer, rather, and how good of a thing it is to be able to offer life to another person, to see, like my donor's family said, the life of their brother living on through my life. And hopefully you're able to connect or make a connection with that family. At least that's what I would try to do. And I've been asked several times, especially in the field that I work in. We do see transplants and transplant patients, or those who organs are being harvested in those families. And I've been contacted by many families on how to get through that, or what is my mindset towards it. Because before this process, I didn't really think about organ donation. To be honest, it's just not it's not a
Yeah.
popular subject matter. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not very
Hmm.
popular subject matter. But when I became directly affected by this, then of course awareness came from that.
Right. That's great. Londel, I would love it if maybe you and I post COVID, once this is over, could connect and maybe share your story with some more people here in the Flint and in the Saginaw County area. That would
That's
be fantastic. 60% of people who are waiting for transplants are from multicultural communities, and I know sometimes there can be a mistrust or maybe a misunderstanding of the process. But I just think hearing your story and just hearing how everything has worked out for you can really be encouraging for someone else who might be on the fence about becoming a registered donor. There
definitely.
is a question here from Jennifer. She wants to know, was your donor able to give other gifts in addition to your kidney?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He was a perfectly healthy man, perfectly healthy. He had an incredible diet, just where he just took care of himself, just absolutely in perfect health, and he was able to donate other organs to other people as well.
Fantastic. That's really great. Is there
Nice.
anything else you would like us to know, Londel?
Just just First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to come on here and talk to so many people. It's always great to
Mhm.
be an encouragement or a light to others and help them to believe that things can happen for them as well, such as this. If anything, if I want to say anything else, I would say that your mind, just protect your mind, your space. Uh, Being in the dialysis center for so long, it can be a very heavy and a very dense environment, but we're stronger than what we know as people. We're stronger than what we know. And sometimes the hardest times help us to see how strong we are. And when you begin to harness and focus that strength and that inner ability, you can come through some of the hardest things.
That's so true. So very true. Brandon, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Trivia. We got trivia tomorrow, and it will be a lot of fun. What's the starting time? 7? Is it
It is
7?
at 7 p.m. Yes,
7
yes.
p.m. 7 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be doing trivia hosted by myself and you, Shalonda, with all the jokes. I'm
I'm
sure you
hilarious.
have.
I love it.
I'm sure you have a gang of them ready. But no, seriously, the last one we did was really, really fun. People learned a lot, but also had a lot of fun at the same time. We gave away a lot of good, valuable gifts, and I'm looking forward to seeing who will reign supreme this time as champions.
Yes. So if you haven't signed up already, please feel free to join us. If you have any more questions about donation, or if you're interested in joining the Michigan Organ Donor Registry, you can always go to our website at golm.org. If you happen to be watching this interview and you don't live in the state of Michigan, you can always go to registerme.org and join the registry that way as well. So, on behalf of Gifts of Life Michigan and Gift of Life Motep and our wonderful partner, Beats and Beers. Londel, you have been a delight. Thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us. Thank you so much for your story, and we wish you nothing but health and success for the
Thank you.
remainder of your days. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I'm
you. I
going to make sure to
appreciate
check
it.
those books out too.
Definitely do that. Do that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Londell. And to anybody else that's watching, please feel free to share this video wherever you're watching it at. So plenty of people need to hear this story, need the inspiration, and need to be educated on the topic. So, like Londell said, it's not a topic that we're discussing, enough. So we need to educate as many people as possible.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very true. And I look forward to you and I connecting in the future, Londel.
Definitely. We definitely will. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes. Have a great evening. Thank you,
You too.
everyone who's listening tonight.